This is the Gerry Callahan Show.
Well, someone's in trouble this morning. Someone in New York at the UN. Trump is addressing the UN General Assembly as we speak, and the teleprompter went out. It doesn't work, and he is forced to look at his notes and wing it, which is good. This should be good. It already is good. He's already saluted Israel. He's called out Russia. He's eviscerated his predecessor, saying that we had 4 years of chaos and violence under Joe Biden. It is hard to believe that Kamala Harris came within a couple million votes of being in that position right now, sitting there addressing the world. God, did we dodge a nuclear missile. We'll get to Kamala, and we'll get to Trump and what else he says. Ironhead is monitoring the speech as we speak. We will turn around any bombastic statements he makes, because there's going to be a few. He's going to talk about free speech, I hope. Maybe he'll even call out the UK for their crackdown on free speech. Again, he's demanding the release of the hostages, which got a muted applause because most of the members of the UN hate Israel. They hate Israel more than they hate the US. And Trump is calling out our NATO allies right now for buying Russian oil. He's gonna go scorched earth. He's not looking down at his notes too often. He is just freestyling, which is always interesting and always good. So we'll be keeping an eye on that. And that is, who's he calling out now? Yep, he's calling out our allies, demanding they stop buying Russian oil. This is good. And we will also be monitoring tonight, 11:30. Yes, a lot of people like me are going to watch Jimmy Kimmel's show for the first time ever. I mean, I've seen lots of clips. Obviously, stuff gets posted online. I obviously watched when he knowingly lied about the killer of Charlie Kirk, which started this whole kerfuffle a week ago. I'll say this. Trump is one of the worst fascists I've ever seen. I mean, that's what I've been hearing for the past week. Trump's a fascist, an authoritarian. He's cracking down on free speech. He's having his enemies taken off the air. Well, what did he do? What's he doing now? Putting them back on the air? Is ABC again bowing to Trump and putting Jimmy Kimmel back on the air tonight? Because I think if you're a fascist, you don't want this guy on the air. You hate him. Why would you let him back on the air? Well, turns out all that was absolute BS. Trump didn't take him off the air. ABC took him off the air, and ABC is putting him back on the air tonight after a 4-day paid vacation. That is the state of martyrdom in the Democrat Party. Their martyr is back on the air tonight. He'll probably get the biggest audience he's had in years. He's still earning his $16 million a year, and he's still free to say what he wants. They got a little problem, though, because many of the affiliates, 71 affiliates, are not planning on carrying Jimmy Kimmel's show tonight. Sinclair and Nexstar both said they will continue to preempt Jimmy Kimmel. They will wait, I assume, to see what he has to say. Sinclair demanded that Jimmy Kimmel apologize for his telling lies about Kirk and Kirk's killer and donate money to TPUSA. Jimmy Kimmel was going to double down if he went back on the air the next day. So they said, we can't do this. We can't put him on the air. They're going to bring him back tonight, and he's going to have to give some kind of apology, show some kind of contrition. It's going to kill him, but that's the only way he's ever going to get back these 70 affiliates, these Sinclair and Nexstar affiliates. And I explained this last week. It's really simple. It's got nothing to do with the FCC or Donald Trump. They just misread the country. They didn't quite grasp how pissed people were, how enraged they were after the assassination of Charlie Kirk. And they didn't appreciate the cavalier way that Kimmel approached it. And indeed, as Brendan Carr, the FCC commissioner, pointed out, he did indeed violate FCC regulations. He's supposed to be acting in their public interest. And you can't knowingly lie about a major news story. It is literally in writing, in the regulations. You can't go out there and knowingly lie. He didn't tell a joke. He wasn't looking for laughs. He was looking, as he always did, as he's always done, to denigrate Trump and Trump supporters. So he blamed MAGA for the murder of Kirk. It was despicable. It was against the rules, and he was taken off the air. He wasn't shot. He wasn't fired. He wasn't sent to jail. There was no violation of his free speech. He could continue to speak all he wants. ABC has their own interest here. Sinclair and Nexstar have their own interest, and they didn't want this despicable piece of trash on their airwaves lying again about the murder of Charlie Kirk. Here's the announcement from Sinclair. Beginning Tuesday night, Sinclair will be preempting Jimmy Kimmel Live across our ABC affiliate stations and replacing it with news programming. Discussions with ABC are ongoing, and we will evaluate the show's potential return. They're just going to watch. They're going to hear what Kimmel has to say. Now, this will kill Jimmy, not literally. No, that's not how this works. But he will have to show some remorse, some regret, some contrition for his outrageous statements last week. Kimmel has a problem, and this, I think, differentiates him from other liberal comedians, people like Jon Stewart or Jimmy Fallon or even John Oliver, is they hate Trump like Jimmy hates Trump, but they can control it to an extent, and they can still look for laughs. They can still, Jon Stewart tries to get laughs, even while hating Trump and hating MAGA. Jimmy Kimmel doesn't even care about laughs. He is an extension of MSNBC. He's an extension of the crazy people on CNN, of the New York Times editorial board. He hates Trump, and he can't control it. He can't channel it. He can't make comedy, laughs, his top priority, and then hate Trump. He sees with disgust and anger and hatred for Trump, and he can't control it. That's what happened last week when he stepped in it. He knew he was lying, and he knew his audience in the little bubble that he lives in felt the same way. So he let his hatred get the best of him. And it is an amazing thing to watch because he has a great gig. Again, making $16 million a year. He has hundreds of people on his staff and works an hour a day. And he couldn't control himself. He couldn't keep that hatred he couldn't limit it. He couldn't control it. He couldn't keep it under wraps to any extent. Here's Jimmy Kimmel's ratings of the last 13 years. By the way, there's a Twitter account on Twitter that pinpoints the beginning and the end for him, the downfall to when he got married, because his wife hates Trump and she has she's affected Jimmy. But there's the decline in viewership of this show, which is losing millions. It was a remarkable thing to watch the last week. Democrats, left-wingers, Trump haters try to explain that Jimmy is a big star, a real success, and they're taking him off the air because he hates Trump and Trump hates him. No, Jimmy Kimmel is losing millions, just like Colbert. Jimmy Kimmel is not funny anymore. He's not popular. He's just another voice of the crazy radical left, no different than from Rachel Maddow or Chris Hayes or anyone else on the left. He stopped being comedian a long time ago. I would say when Trump came along, that's when the real downfall. You can see he's kind of steady for a couple of years. Trump comes along, boom, numbers just plummet. And he didn't care. His top goal, his top priority was attacking Trump, lying about Trump supporters on a nightly basis. And people were sick of it. They tuned into shows like that for laughs. for a little, a little comedy before bed, and that what they got was just another radical left lunatic. And I wonder, can he do it? Can he make that pivot from just outright hatred to Trump every night to actual trying to get some laughs? Judging by his first guest, I'd say maybe not. Tonight, his first guest on his return, Gavin Newsom. Yes, he's having Newsom on. And what's the odds that one or both will say fascist, authoritarian?
Well, if they do that, they should be immediately pulled off the air for lying again.
It's they got a tightrope to walk here. They have a fine line, because they're going to be, Jimmy's going to be talking to his audience, which are all Trump haters. Most of them are just morons that believe him when he says a MAGA guy killed Kirk. We showed you that poll. 33% of Democrats believe that Tyler Robinson is MAGA. You know why? Because they listen to people like Kimmel, and they listen to the lies from the left. But he's probably going to read a statement essentially from his lawyer, or from lawyers, ABC lawyers, his lawyers, and kind of walk the fine line and then pretend that he's looking for laughs with Newsom and make some jokes about whatever, Trump's hair or something, or something Trump says to the UN today. But the people at Sinclair, the people at Nexstar are watching. They're listening. They're monitoring. And if he doesn't rein it in, he's not going to be back on those stations. Again, these are stations in the Midwest, down south, out west. These are stations who heard from their customers, who heard from their advertisers and said they don't want to be a part of this anymore. So if he's going to survive, and I believe his contract's up in a few months, if he's not going to end up in the dustbin of history, he has to pivot. He has to change. There's no question. And that's not going to be easy for just a total a-hole like Kimmel, who has never shown any sign that he he's never shown that he could do what Bill Maher has done and kind of open his eyes and see things, the way other people see. He can't do that. So it will be fascinating. And I admit I'll be watching. He's going to have a big night. He'll get big numbers. He'll get numbers like he used to get before Trump came along. He'll probably beat Greg Gutfeld for once. And then tomorrow night, he'll go back to getting his ass kicked. And tomorrow night, everyone will go back to ignoring this punk. But we will see. It's going to be really interesting. And I wonder how many of the people who said this was a fascist takeover, that this was Trump taking someone off the air because he didn't like him, how many of them will say, well, I was wrong. I guess that wasn't a decision made by the Trump administration, because we've heard it nonstop for 5 days that Trump did this. Well, if Trump did that, why is he going back on the air? They could have fired him, moved on. They could have put something else there that doesn't lose millions every year, but they didn't. And maybe it's because the other side was protesting and shooting bullets into ABC affiliates. Maybe they bowed to that pressure. But you can't today say Trump did this, Trump's a fascist, Trump's an authoritarian. It just doesn't work. But they'll keep saying it. God knows they'll keep saying it. Yesterday, Kamala Harris began her book tour. And I told you this, Ironhead. I said, this is going to be good. When it's over, when this book tour is over, there'll be no support for Kamala Harris as a candidate in 2028. It's already slipping away. She's only been out there for one day. But she called Trump in her first interview a communist dictator. A communist dictator, which is odd because all the people who hate Trump in New York are supporting a communist candidate for mayor. So it's a bad thing to be a communist now. But Kamala doesn't know what she's saying. Kamala is a moron. We've gone over this. She's just not up for the job. She wasn't a good vice president. She was a terrible candidate. And now she has a book out and she's going to be terrible on this tour, promoting and selling the book. It's going to be a disaster. It already is. I will give her credit for one thing. She has included in the book some juicy nuggets, which have gotten people's interest. She's going to sell some books. She doesn't include, I'll say this again, she could have really changed the game here. If she, in her book, she explained exactly how they managed to depose Joe Biden, what her role is in those few days between Biden screaming that he's not going anywhere, I'm staying in the race. And then 3 days later, he was out of the race. She had a role in that. And she doesn't go into that in detail. She does admit that she saw a decline in Joe Biden, as she says, when he was tired. That was her explanation. But at the same time, she went public and said, he's great, tip top. Can't keep up with him. Sharper's attack. So she lied then. And now, this is an amazing clip. She goes on with Rachel Maddow. That's her first stop in this book tour, which is going to last for months. And she's just so bad at this. She's just so unlikable. The big takeaway, as we know, for the last week when they started releasing excerpts and just little nuggets was what she said about Pete Buttigieg and how the reason she didn't pick Buttigieg because he's gay and a black woman with a Jewish husband couldn't pick a gay guy because she said it was too risky. People weren't ready for that. So she sits down with, I would say, a gay icon in Rachel Maddow. And Rachel goes right at her, says, I had a problem with that. You saying you didn't pick Buttigieg because he was gay. Now, she turned around and picked Tim Walz, which is pretty amazing. But here, let me read her from her book before we get her response to Rachel. In the book, she writes, Buttigieg would have been an ideal partner if I were a straight white man. But we were already asking a lot of America to accept a black woman married to a Jewish man who banged the nanny. Oh, no, I made that up. No. Part of me wanted to say, screw it, let's just do it. But knowing what was at stake, it was too big a risk. And I think Pete also knew that, to our mutual sadness. So she was sad when she thought she couldn't pick Pete and she picked Walz. By the way, she didn't pick Shapiro either because he's Jewish. That was too big a risk also. Instead, she picked that absolute buffoon, that clown who lied about everything, who had the jazz hands, who was just an absolute cartoon character. That was her choice over Buttigieg or Shapiro or Mark Kelly. And it was the worst pick of a vice president we have ever seen, or at least as bad as the one Joe Biden made. But here's Kamala looking Rachel Maddow in the eye and lying. Watch.
If his reaction to that, since this part of the book has come out, if you've had any reflection on that, or I guess I'd ask you to just elaborate on that a little bit. It's hard to hear.
Yeah.
With you running as, you're the first woman elected vice president, you're a black woman and a South Asian woman elected to that high office, very nearly elected president, to say that he couldn't be on the ticket effectively because he was gay. It's hard to hear.
No. That's not what I said. That he couldn't be on the ticket because he is gay. My point, as I write in the book, is that I was clear that in 107 days, in one of the most hotly contested elections for president of the United States, against someone like Donald Trump, who knows no floor, to be a black woman running for president of the United States, and as a vice presidential running mate, a gay man, with the stakes being so high, it made me very sad, but I also realized it would be a real risk. No matter how, I've been an advocate and an ally of the LGBT community my entire life. So it wasn't about any prejudice on my part, but
that
we had such a short period of time, and the stakes were so high. I think Pete is a phenomenal public servant. And I think America is and would be ready for that. But at when I had to make that decision with 2 weeks to go, you know, and maybe I was being too cautious, you know, I'll let our friends, we should all talk about that. Maybe I was. But that's the decision I made. And I, as with everything else in the book, I'm being very candid about that.
Yeah.
With a great deal of sadness about also the fact that it might have been a risk.
First of all, she did say she didn't choose him because he's gay. She didn't explain why. And no one seems to want to go there. But she was going to appeal to Black Americans. And, you know, like Obama did, even though she's whatever, mixed race, Southeast Asian, whatever she used to call herself. And she thought she couldn't win with a gay guy. Look at Buttigieg when he ran on his own. I mean, he was doing great till they got to South Carolina. Look at the polls. Black voters didn't support him. They didn't like him. And she knew it. Instead, that wasn't the problem. The problem was who she turned around and picked instead. That Buttigieg, Shapiro, Kelly, you name it, any of them would have been better than Walz. She's just come out and said Walz was a disaster. She should blame whoever it was who convinced her to pick Walz, but she can't and she won't do that. And I think it's the good news will be when this tour is done, she's going to make some money. She's going to sell some books. People are going to just latch on to a few of these nuggets and run with it because, you know, that's what cable news does. She won't go anywhere hostile, of course. She won't go to Newsmax or Fox News or New York Post, which she's selling this book. She'll go to friendly, soft landing places like that, like Rachel Maddow. But she'll get on all those shows, all the morning shows, Today's Show, Good Morning America, those places that don't allow conservatives. But it's not going to work. At the end of this tour, we will all agree she will not be the candidate. She cannot be the candidate, even for the dumbest people in the Democrat Party. They will admit, they will know, it'll be clear that she can't run again. She was such a bad candidate. Here's CNN's data guru, Wacky Harry Enton, explaining just how unpopular Kamala Harris is. Go ahead.
I would just say that if you want a messenger to go against Donald Trump, you can do far better as Democrats than Kamala Harris. What are we talking about here? Well, let's take a look at her net favorable ratings nationwide. You know, back in October of 2024, she was at -5 points. Not exactly great, but pretty close to the zero mark, right? Pretty close to even. But now, down under she goes. She's at -13 points. That's an 8-point drop since the general election among the overall electorate. She is not well liked at this particular point. The American people, they don't want this. They don't want her. And get this, she's 37 points underwater with independents. If you can't win independents, you can't win the election. And the bottom line is, with those in the center electorate, those who are the most up for grabs, she is way, way, way underwater. She is definitely swimming with the fishes.
So that's
37 points underwater with independents. Now, you look at the polls, she's 1, 2, or 3. She's in the top 3 with Newsom and AOC. But if she had to run a real campaign, like debate, it'll go the way it went in 2020 when she was on her own and didn't even make it to Iowa. People rejected her. They rejected her in her home state of California. They know she's a terrible candidate. And the only way she ever became the nominee was they had no primaries. She was anointed, you know, by the party of democracy. She was just picked. And it was, as we know, a disaster. And by the way, she keeps saying it was only 107 days. It was a sprint. I didn't have enough time. The first 30 of those 107, she was in hiding. She didn't do any interviews. Forget hostile interviews. She didn't even go on with her friend Rachel Maddow or with Michael Strahan or Stephanopoulos. She hid out for the first month of this brief campaign. She has no one but herself to blame. She's blaming everyone else. She's blaming Biden. You know, she's blaming homophobic voters, but she's got to look in the mirror. All right, before we move on, Ironhead, quick question. Dumb or drunk? What is your assessment of Kamala on the book tour so far? Dumb or drunk?
She's so dumb it drives her to drink.
And you always know the difference between a nighttime interview and a morning interview with Kamala. She seems to slur a little more at night, but
yeah,
it's going to be fun. I'm looking forward to it. I hope She agrees to go on do some hostile interviews. And I implore the interviewer, just ask details. Take us minute by minute through the moment from when Biden said, I'm staying in the race, to the moment he said, I'm bowing out of the race. What convinced him? Did you indeed threaten the 25th Amendment, which they couldn't have done without her? So she had to be involved in the coup with Nancy Pelosi and Hakeem Jeffries and Obama. We need to know that. If it's not in the book, tell us now, and you'll get some real attention if you do that. But she won't. Trump's still speaking to the UN General Assembly, and he did it. He called out the UK for their crackdown on free speech and their unfettered immigration, which is destroying London. Do we have that clip? He's talking about the London mayor. I want this. I need this. He obviously is talking about Gaza and Russia and everything else and bragging about all the wars he stopped. But we need to address this assault, this attack on free speech. If you're online like me, you've seen all the people, thousands and thousands of people arrested, jailed in England for retweeting or for posting on Facebook. Some people are getting years, like 3 years for memes and tweets and posts. And he's calling out their mayor, Shakir Khan, whatever his name is, and talking about the dangers of allowing this Muslim takeover of their cities in the UK, in Europe, hell, here. Look at Dearborn, Michigan, where their mayor is now doing videos with Islamic subtitles and putting out flyers in Arabic for the people of Dearborn, Michigan. Here's Trump a moment ago talking about the downfall of London.
About it. And I have to say, I look at London, where you have a terrible mayor, terrible, terrible mayor. And it's been so changed. Now they want to go to Sharia law, but you're in a different country. You can't do that. Both the immigration and their suicidal energy ideas will be the death of Western Europe if something is not done immediately. This cannot be sustained. What makes the world so beautiful is that each country is unique. But to stay this way, every sovereign nation must have the right to control their own borders. You have the right to control your borders.
Good. I was hoping for that. He called them out and they had the camera on the British guys, and they're just sitting there glumly. They hate him so much, but that needs to be said. That needs to be done. And thank God Trump is in the White House, because he'll say it. And again, teleprompter's not working. He's winging it right there. And that was good. Hopefully he calls out all of Western Europe and Australia and New Zealand, all the West, the entire West, which is committing suicide on a daily basis. All right, we got so much more to get to. I want to do this. I've heard it so much over the last week. I've seen it on X. I've seen it on cable news. People, not just Democrats, people, Republicans, journalists saying that the Trump administration and the GOP should be careful going after their enemies, like Adam Schiff and James Comey, or going after comedians like Jimmy Kimmel, because they're not going to be in power forever. You just wait. In 3.5 years, Democrats may control the House. They may control the White House. And then what? It's the most absurd question when you think about it. We just lived through 4 years of Joe Biden, the most authoritarian thug we've ever seen in the White House. Now, maybe he didn't have all his faculties, but the people around him, the whole AutoPen team, they didn't go a day without going after their enemies. As I've said many times, their first order of business in January 2021 was to go after. Hell, they took Trump off social media before his term was up. Day one, they went after RFK. They kicked millions of people off social media. They arrested Trump many times. They tried to bankrupt him. They took him. He was unable to post on any social media site. That's what they did. Why do we think it matters what Republicans do now? Republicans could just call off all the dogs. They could They could let Jimmy Kimmel do whatever he wants. They could let Comey and Clapper and Schiff skate. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what Republicans do now. Democrats have shown their true colors. They are coming after Republicans, their enemies, no matter what. It's such an absurd question. Give me Scarborough saying this morning. I don't think he actually believes it. He knows it doesn't matter what Trump does. He could give Schiff the friggin' Medal of Freedom tomorrow, and Schiff is still going to lie, and he's still going to be part of this Democrat apparatus that goes after Republicans in 4 years. Listen to Morning Joe.
Well, and what some Republicans did seem to understand, Ted Cruz certainly understood it, that yes, right now this is being used against speech that Republicans don't like. But Willie, Republicans aren't going to be in the White House forever. So they understood. Ted Cruz warned about it. Others warned about it. What we're doing to them right now, they will do to us when a Democrat. This is short-sighted. It makes no sense.
Okay, what will change is what I want to know. Does he really think Democrats will suddenly not use the FBI or the DOJ, that they will not pressure social media companies, that they will not ban conservatives, on network shows, that things will be different if Republicans play nice? It's so absurd. This is the leader. This is the most powerful Democrat in D.C. right now, Hakeem Jeffries, the minority leader, talking about this very same thing. Like, just wait till it's our turn. You better not come after us or we'll come after you. You will come after us no matter what, Hakeem, and you know it. But apparently these are the talking points that have been sent out. Go ahead.
One thing to understand, as people who are flirting with the Trump administration or doing the bidding of the Trump administration or engaging in the pay-to-play schemes of the Trump administration, the statute of limitations is 5 years. Donald Trump and this toxic administration will be long gone, but there will still be accountability to be had. And that process, of course, begins now, but it will not be complete until perhaps there is an independent Department of Justice, certainly an independent House of Representatives in Democratic hands. The Department of Justice is one of the great institutions in law enforcement in the history of this country. And Donald Trump and these extremists have been destroying its integrity.
You got to laugh at this guy. What did Merrick Garland do, Hakeem? Did he destroy its integrity? What did Christopher Wray, James Comey, James Clapper, what did they do? John Brennan, did DOJ have integrity when those guys had the hammer? This is from Kyle Becker on X. Very well said. He said, the radical left carried out a censorship reign of terror under Joe Biden. They mass coordinated a deplatforming of the president of the United States. They censored millions of Americans for questioning an election where Democrats illegally changed election laws, resulting in Joe Biden winning swing states with a higher turnout than Barack Obama and winning 18 of 19 bellwether counties, despite having an invalid running a no-show campaign. Then they censored, suppressed, deplatformed, demonetized, and debanked conservatives for all of this and questioning the jabs, even though, as Mark Zuckerberg admitted, they were right in some cases that he was pressured to censor from the Biden administration. They pushed cancel culture. They got all their enemies canceled, including, he points out, Roseanne Barr, James Woods, Megyn Kelly, Gina Carano, Tim Allen. But mendacious hacks like Joe Scarborough never said a word in anyone's defense. So Morning Joe could spare us the morning BS and the disingenuous sermonizing about that contrived outrage of the day. If all ends justify the means rationalization and no serious person has time for it, he's right. They are. You have to forget the last 4 years. Just forget it. If you think there's any reason for Republicans to, let all these criminals like Schiff and Comey skate, it's coming. I really believe even Pam Bondi knows she has to show some results. So we will see some arrests, and these people like Joe Scarborough and Hakeem Jeffries will lose their minds. But it won't affect what will happen if Democrats take the White House and the House. They will do what they do. They will come after their enemies. You want to play? We should do an Ilhan Omar segment every day. This despicable, this un-American ingrate. That's what she is, just an ingrate. The country has given her everything, and now she's embarrassed. She thinks the world is looking at us and laughing because of our leaders. You're one of our leaders. You're the reason people are laughing, that we let you in here. We give you everything, and you turn around and hate this country. This is from Ilhan Omar, American ingrate, yesterday.
For me, is I feel embarrassed for him, because in these attacks, what he does, and I think with the likes of Nancy Mace and whoever that Randy guy is, they expose themselves for how stupid they are. And that is embarrassing for us as a country, because these are people who are elected to positions of leadership. He's supposed to be the president of the United States, who's heading off to Europe to represent us. When he does, he's uneducated enough to understand that members of Congress can't be impeached. You know, when you have Nancy and Randy saying, you know, we're on it, we're going to impeach her. When they're saying they're going to deport me, knowing full well that you cannot deport an American citizen. What that displays for not just Americans, but folks on an international platform, is that our country is being led by idiots. And that is not something that we should be comfortable with as Americans. And that's not something that should make us proud. And so in this moment, I feel great sadness as an American that these are the kind of people that the world gets to see representing us. So,
what an absolute piece of garbage, honest to God. She can't be deported, but she can be deported. She has to be denaturalized because she lied on her immigration form. She lied. She married her brother. She committed fraud. She could be denaturalized and then deported, which would be a great thing for this country. But a couple more examples of the Democrat strategy, as we've seen for 4 years and 8 months now, is whatever Trump says, we're against it. What Trump does, we're going to fight it. A couple things happened yesterday. Trump, as we know, brought out his team, brought out RFK Jr., Marty McCary, to say that Tylenol may have a role in autism. They've gone over it many times. When you hear RFK speak on this, you say, man, that is a guy who sees a problem and is trying to fix it. That's a guy that knows there's an issue here. He went through the numbers, as we've gone over many times. A generation ago, 1 in 10,000 kids had autism. Now it's 1 in 31. It's more in boys. Some states are worse than others, but there's a real problem. And he's determined to find the cause of the problem and solve it. That's what the Trump team does. And they think Tylenol has a role in this. And all I can say is, I'm going to guess, without even studying the data or the science, a lot of pregnant women are going to stay away from Tylenol, just in case. Is it the cause of this incredible outbreak, increase in autism? I don't know. I didn't study the data either. I'm just like everyone else in the media. I listen to these guys. They're really smart. Maybe people stop taking Tylenol. Women stop taking Tylenol when they're pregnant. And maybe 5 years from now, we say, wow, real decline, real steep decline in autism. And that would be a wonderful thing. But Trump's for it, so they're against it. That's the way it has to go, right? Trump says Tylenol does this. Immediately, they all say, wow, can't be. Trump's doing it. Take more Tylenol. Let's all take Tylenol. It's just amazing. Watch this with Chris Cuomo has Marty McCary on, who's smart as hell. All during COVID, he was a voice of reason. He's not going to risk his reputation. Just something Trump made up. Trump's just following their lead. He's following the lead of the scientists, of the doctors. But here's Chris Cuomo playing, typical media person saying, you're wrong about this. I read an article in the New York Times, Washington Post, and McCary sets him straight. Check it out.
So Harvard does a review of previous studies, and they came up with what I would term as a layman, right? Because I'm not a clinician, as a split decision in favor of studies that found that Tylenol may have an association with negative effects, including potential forms of autism.
This research is not a split decision, as you described. 27 studies found an association between prenatal use of acetaminophen and autism. And there were 13 studies that went the other way, but the authors concluded that the higher quality studies favored an association. And if I can just quote the dean of the Harvard School of Public Health, my former institution, quote unquote, there is a causal relationship between prenatal acetaminophen and the neurodegenerative disorders of ADHD and autism spectrum disorder.
Sounds pretty convincing to me that the head of the FDA, a doctor, a Harvard Medical School grad, just said there's a connection. So why don't we just do this? Why don't we try something else? Why don't women who are pregnant, just stay away from Tylenol and see what happens? Why not? It's a big, big problem. And this may be the solution. They're not going to stop studying it, working for more clarity. But let's try this, see if it works. The other thing Trump did yesterday was declare Antifa a terrorist organization. This is great. I mean, we've seen Antifa terrorize this country for 5 years now. They are terrorists. They are using violence for a political end, and they're doing it in our country. Hell, look at Portland, Oregon, like nightly, attacking the courthouse, attacking ICE, these masked, black-clad anarchists. Clearly, they're a problem. Clearly, we should find out who's funding them, who's organizing, who's passing out gas masks, who's paying these people to terrorize Americans. I think it's a good thing. I think it gives the federal government more tools to go after Antifa. I just looked this up. There are 81 foreign terrorist organizations designated terrorists by this country. I think most of them aren't nearly the threat Antifa is, particularly during this current effort to deport illegal alien criminals. They're attacking ICE. Hell, in Texas, they had a planned, coordinated attempt to assassinate ICE agents to get them out of their building and shoot them with rifles. They didn't kill anyone, but it was planned, plotted, paid for. Who's doing that? Wouldn't you like to know? But the media has their usual reflex to something Trump's doing. Antifa? What's that? I don't even know what that is. That's Jerry Nadler, that bridge troll from New York, said it's not a thing. So don't believe your eyes when you see these criminals in the streets throwing things at cops, shooting at cops, destroying buildings, businesses, just nihilists, just evil people. It's not really a thing. And the media's response to Trump designating them terrorists is, I don't even know what that is. Chuck Todd, of course, he was a big star. Now he does a podcast and shows his true colors. Here's Chuck Todd saying he doesn't know what Antifa is. And Chuck Todd, a couple of years ago, interviewing an organizer of Antifa and making it clear he does know what they are. Check this out.
They're going to try to create a new classification for anybody on the left who opposes Trump as somehow a member of Antifa and a terrorist.
Yes.
Like, this is coming. And I don't think we are fully now. I don't think there's any the problem. Like, I don't even know what Antifa is. I know what the definition of Antifa is, and I know
what the word means, but it's not a group.
There is no group.
No.
Mark Bray, you are writing this book, Antifa, the Anti-Fascist Handbook. Explain this movement and its roots.
Mark Bray is a Dartmouth professor who has studied the Antifa anti-fascist movement. Antifa is a far-left political movement that argues it's necessary to confront hate groups, sometimes with force. Professor Bray is author of the new book, Antifa, the Anti-Fascist Handbook.
I don't even know what that is. By the way, there are politicians in this country, elected officials, who read this book, who support Antifa. Keith Ellison, the Attorney General of Minnesota, held it up. He's Antifa, and he's a law enforcement official in Minnesota. It's remarkable. They don't want the Trump administration to crack down on these violent anarchists because they don't know what they are. Really? Andy Ngo, the journalist, he got beaten. He almost got killed. He has covered this extensively. He wrote a book about Antifa. We know what they are, and we know someone is paying for them. And now the federal government has got more ways to come after them. And that's a good thing. There's no arguing. That is a good thing. Sorry, but Trump will crack down on Antifa and save lives. And it doesn't matter, Chucky, if you don't know what that is, we do. We see it every day. All right, before we go, let's just do a crazy Keith Olbermann. We should do a Olbermann and a Omar segment every day because these people are they're out there and they are sick. And Keith Olbermann, unfortunately, is not on MSNBC anymore. I still think he'd fit in well there, but what an absolute just psychopath this man is. And apparently he still does a podcast and he still has followers and listeners, but he's smart. We all admit he's smart. But I think he embodies the big problem we have on the left, which has infected many people like Chuck Todd and Jimmy Kimmel. They can't control their hatred for Trump. It comes out, manifests itself in many different ways, but they can't control it. They seethe with hatred when they wake up in the morning. We've played many clips from Scott Jennings. He's smart. He's a conservative. He debates liberals every night. Keith Olbermann wants him dead. He doesn't just want him dead. He said it. He wrote it. He posted it. Can you get Olbermann's post? He says, Scott Jennings, you're next. When talking about Charlie Kirk, you're next. Now, it's one thing to think that. Lots of crazy liberals, as we've shown you, were happy that Charlie Kirk was assassinated. But to say it and post it, you're next, Scott Jennings? Why? What has Scott Jennings done? Same thing Charlie Kirk did. He goes into hostile places and debates. He does it intelligently. He's smart. He's effective. He's persuasive. And Keith Olbermann wants him dead. There's a sickness, as we've said many, many times, a sickness out there on the left. They want another Charlie Kirk. They do. They not all of them, but it doesn't help their cause. But it feeds something. There's something satisfying to them when their side uses violence to stop people from talking. And that's what Keith Olbermann is hoping for. Just remarkable. But all right, that will do it for today. I'm going to go, is Trump all done? Trump appears to be done. I'm sure there's going to be lots of people seething today for what Trump said in front of the UN today. I think it was good. I think he did a good job, but we will see. And we'll be watching Jimmy tonight. I have to admit it. I'm going to be watching, and we'll talk about it tomorrow, I'm sure. We will see just how much contrition he shows, just how much he walks back his lies from last week. And we'll see what Sinclair and Nexstar do in response. But that'll do it for today. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. I'm Gerry Callahan. This is the Callahan Show, and we'll do it again tomorrow.
Hospitals get any more overcrowded, they're going to have to make some very tough choices about who gets an ICU bed. That choice doesn't seem so tough to me. Vaccinated person having a heart attack? Yes, come right on in. We'll take care of you. Unvaccinated guy who gobbled horse goo? Rest in peace, Wheezy. That's